Hello, Rick here with a lore breakdown on The Traveller. The Traveller was a mostly unknown factor in the Next Generation shows, but was expounded upon in other media where we learn more about his motives and the fact that there are more of them. Spoilers for Star Trek Picard Season 2, although the plot points I'm discussing, as of yet, are irrelevant to the tale of that series. But I have to remind myself that everyone's spoiler threshold is different, so... He is described as being from Tau Alpha C, but it is unknown what species he was and if he was native to that planet, as when questioned by the crew he responded that he did not consider himself to be from another time or reality as he perceives it, but might be, depending on how we understand the linearity of time. A cryptic answer, but one that hints very much at his role as a powerful entity capable of existing and perceiving beyond our view of the universe. When we first meet him, he is working alongside Starfleet engineer, the warp theorist specialist Kosinski. He is aiding in the acceleration of Starfleet's warp technology by focusing his powers through the warp systems of Starfleet ships and using this as a method to travel and explore the Federation. He describes his motivations in helping Starfleet as mostly out of curiosity, and the name Traveller even hints at the wanderlust of his nature. This might be true for the character personally, but the books go on to add to his motivations, adding a degree of responsibility to them. We learn here that there are more travellers who not only explore to find new members to join their ranks, but they have a greater goal in mind of at least maintaining the timelines. This is born from the fact that any species or organisation with the capability of time travel is going to have to inevitably fall on either side of that non-intervention line. This principle of non-interference from the Travellers is something that has been added to the canon recently, and at first seems to oppose the initial actions of the first Traveller, which were born from self-confessed curiosity. However, I think there might be a bit of a loophole in that the Traveller was dealing exclusively with Starfleet here, an organisation that abides by a similar prime directive, temporal or otherwise, and would ultimately understand if he chose to withhold his power from them. The powers that the Traveller can bring to bear seem to focus on the manipulation of space-time through simple conscious decision. His first appearance had him amplifying a warp core to travel potentially far beyond what even he was capable of by himself. Firstly the Galaxy M33, and then the Edge of Creation, but this exhausted him. On top of this, he could not be read by empathic abilities, and later on was shown to be able to alter his appearance. He may even have possessed some level of foresight, but with the abilities to manipulate time, this was more likely simply knowledge of potential future events. Within the books and show, we see similar powers develop within Wesley Crusher, with one of the earliest being the aiding of the Traveller, but soon he displayed the ability to freeze time, or rather, remove himself from it. It is described as Wesley simply stepping back out of space-time to observe it yet be apart from it. In its most early forms, it would lead him to perceive time as being frozen while he could still interact as normal, and in Apocrypha this develops further to allow him to stay out of phase with a timeline, allowing it to progress while remaining invisible to those within it. This was similar to the Voth's interphasic cloaking devices, but accomplished with no technology behind it. The basis for his powers was claimed to be rooted in simply an advanced understanding of space-time and reality. From this view of things came the unlocked potential that space-time and thought were not separate things, but could in fact manipulate one another, which is a pretty science fantasy idea, but sometimes Star Trek does lean into the stranger and more near mythical or supernatural elements of science fiction. Personally, I kind of like it when Trek does this, as it serves as a reminder that not everything is understood, even in the Trek universe, and there are still seemingly inexplicable things that can occur. We see a similar level of power unfolding within the manifestation of the full Okumpan potential in Star Trek Voyager, although the origin here was more of an evolution of Kess's psychic power. During the transformation, she explains that she is seeing and understanding a realm where matter, energy and thought are no longer separate, in a similar fashion to the sort of cosmic awareness that the Traveller spoke of. Kes essentially ascends into a higher level of power and exhibits the ability to not only display psychokinetic and telepathic powers, but manages to fling Voyager over 9,500 light years. It was not a smooth ride, but the fact that the ship survived the trip at all shows that there was some level of warp manipulation at play. Just to clarify, I'm not saying that Kes was a Traveller, just that this sort of greater understanding and thought-based power is a recurring thing in Trek, and that both Kes, the Traveller, and Wesley walked a similar path, it would seem. They also exhibited the ability to manipulate subspace in the form of warp bubbles, which seems on par for the sort of manipulation the Traveller could perform, as seen in 2367, when they pulled Wesley Crusher from a collapsing warp bubble experiment where her own mind and fears were shaping that pocket reality. As Wesley's powers grew in the books, we soon learn that he can travel not only through space, but time as well, although the length of the journey does exert a toll of exhaustion, as does maintaining his out-of-phase state. As part of his tutelage from the Traveller, Wesley learned that the responsibilities he had with his new powers when he removed the Marquis from existence. The result was a full-scale war with Cardassia, and the Federation Department of Temporal Investigations noted the alteration as an aberration and investigated, and the timeline was restored. Wesley completed his training with the Traveller in 2378, but what with all the time jumping he undertook, who knows how long it really took, especially with his new state of being also lessening the rate at which he aged. In one potential future he lived to be over 300 at least, but did appear as an old man by then. Now, stepping into the spoilers for Picard, although as mentioned it's less of a spoiler and more of a cameo. Wesley arrives on Earth in 2024, visibly an adult, and recruits Corey to join the Travellers too. He states that the mission statement of the Travellers is to maintain a cosmic tapestry, to prevent its unravelling in both time and space by observing threats and maintaining the destinies of certain individuals and events that were pivotal in preserving that stability. Kind of Star Trek Time Lords. This lines up more with the Travellers of the books, as he goes on to describe that it is the Travellers who created the undercover agents and supervisors such as Talon and Gary 7. I already did a video covering the Apocrypha on these from before this inclusion, but their mission was in a similar vein, although the agents themselves made it a point of not utilising time travel so that they could avoid becoming another variable in this delicate manipulation. It seems that this does not extend to their handlers, an organisation called Aegis in Apocrypha, the Travellers in canon. As far as I can see, this is the only collision of the two factions, but it's not inconceivable that they are the same organisation, just operating on two separate levels. Much of this seems drawn from the extended roles that both the supervisors and the Travellers had in Apocrypha. So what do you think? I have no objection to Wesley retaining his role as a Traveller, and I certainly feel that he would inevitably seek to do something more with his powers, something good. So perhaps, even with all the timey-wimey stuff he can pull, perhaps it was even he that founded the Travellers into this force for universal consistency. I don't think that would be out of character for him, and the contradiction that the Travellers try to limit their intervention has been present literally since the introduction of the first Traveller in TNG, where he was definitely interfering. Overall, as said, I like the addition of these sorts of things, but it's not to everyone's tastes, and I hope it serves as a better role than just a cameo appearance. After all, the books have recently splintered into their own official timeline, separating them into another reality, and the Travellers play a major role in that, with the emergence of an extra-dimensional threat, but that is for a future video. Thanks for watching. I've been Rick, and I'll see you out there. Goodbye.